The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, definitely.
Or, well, in this case, a high-stakes, multi-million-pound legal collapse that has completely rewritten the narrative for, one of the most famous men on the planet. Welcome to Store Scope Report.
Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today we are unpacking a massive stack of recent court documents, judicial summaries, and global news reports. I mean, we're talking about sources spanning from the UK all the way to India.
It is a massive amount of material to go through.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to break down Prince Harry's crushing defeat against the British press, the devastating loss of his family's security, and, well, the tragic, unprecedented royal fallout that has followed.
So you're definitely going to want to grab a seat for this because the sheer scale of what just happened in London's High Court is genuinely staggering.
Staggering is the perfect word for it. We are talking about Prince Harry, alongside a group of A-list co-claimants, now staring down the barrel of a potential £50 million legal bill.
50 million. It's just wow.
Right, after a devastating loss in court.
It is a monumental shift in a legal saga that has, captivated the public for years. And to really understand the magnitude of this £50 million threat, we have to look at the architecture of the battle itself.
Let's do it.
So for years, Prince Harry has been on this highly personal, highly publicized crusade against the British tabloid press.
Right, which he links directly back to his mother.
Exactly. He links this fight directly to the tragic death of Princess Diana in 1997, and also to what he has consistently described as the absolute misery inflicted upon his wife, Meghan, by the media ecosystem.
And he didn't just walk into court alone this time either. He assembled a true powerhouse of co-claimants.
Oh, heavy hitters.
Yeah, he teamed up with Baroness Doreen Lawrence, who is the mother of murdered teenager Stephen Lawrence, an incredibly respected figure in the UK, as well as Sir Elton John, David Furnish, Elizabeth Hurley, and Sadie Frost.
That is quite a lineup.
It really is. And together they launched this massive lawsuit against Associated Newspapers Ltd, or A&L, the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday.
Right, and the allegations they brought were not just about, bad journalism or hurt feelings. They were accusing the publisher of systematic criminal behavior over a period of several years.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, we were talking about allegations of blagging, which, for those who might not know the term, is the practice of gaining highly confidential information by deception.
Like pretending to be someone else on the phone.
Exactly. Imagine someone calling up a private medical clinic, pretending to be your assistant to get your health records. That is blagging. They also alleged wiretapping landlines, intercepting private voicemails, and hiring private investigators to dig up financial and personal data.
So they basically built this colossal fortress of accusations, asserting that the publisher utilized a clear, sustained network of unlawful information gathering.
Right.
But, and here's where the story takes its first major turn, the London High Court just officially dismissed these massive privacy claims.
They threw it out.
Completely.
Yeah.
The judge essentially looked at the foundation of this legal fortress and said, this doesn't hold up. Mr. Justice Nicklin delivered the ruling, and I was reading through the judicial summary because his wording is just fascinating.
What did he say?
He stated there was simply insufficient evidence of wrongdoing. In one specific instance, regarding an article about Harry's ex-girlfriend Chelsea Davy, the judge noted that, and I quote, privacy alone does not prove unlawful acquisition.
Wow.
Yeah. Can we pause and unpack that? Because to the average person listening, if private information ends up on the front page of a newspaper, it feels like a crime must have been committed to get it.
And that is the exact friction point between moral outrage and legal reality.
Right.
Because in a civil courtroom, the burden of proof is paramount. Just because highly sensitive private information ends up in the public domain, you cannot automatically legally deduce that a crime like wiretapping or hacking was committed to obtain it.
It's like spending years building a massive fortress of evidence, only for the court to declare the foundation isn't legally sound.
Exactly. The defense strategy from A&L was brilliant in its simplicity. They didn't just say, we didn't do it. They offered the court plausible alternative routes for how that information leaked.
So they pointed the finger back at the celebrity's own world.
Precisely. A&L's legal team called the claims lurid and preposterous, but more importantly, they argued that their stories came from entirely legitimate, everyday journalistic sources.
Like what kind of sources?
We are talking about press officers talking off the record, previous reports being recycled, publicists trying to spin narratives, and perhaps most stingingly, the celebrity's own leaky social circles.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
Right. Think about how a rumor spreads at a party. A friend of a friend mentions something, a journalist overhears it, verifies a piece of it with a publicist, and suddenly it's a headline.
And you didn't need to hack a phone to get it.
Exactly. The court ultimately found that Harry and his co-claimants simply didn't provide compelling, concrete evidence to prove that the Mail used illegal methods like private investigators or wiretaps to get those specific stories.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here, though. Put yourself in his shoes for a second. You spend years building this case. But wait, didn't Harry recently win against the Mirror Group?
He did.
And didn't he secure a massive settlement and an apology from the publisher of The Sun?
He did, yeah.
So why did this specific case against the Mail fail so spectacularly?
It really comes down to the digital forensics and the historical culture of those specific newsrooms.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, in the case against the Mirror Group, the judge explicitly found that phone hacking had become widespread and habitual at those specific titles back in the late 1990s and early 2000s.
Right, they had the receipts.
Exactly. There was a demonstrable trail of illegal activity, invoices, and testimonies. Harry was awarded damages because the evidence of the mechanism, the how, was irrefutable.
And what about The Sun?
With The Sun, they reached a settlement that included an apology for past unlawful activities, avoiding a full trial. But A&L took a completely different tactical approach.
They fought back.
They vehemently denied all charges from day one. They refused to settle. They demanded that the claimants prove every single allegation, and the claimants simply couldn't meet that evidentiary threshold.
So now the publisher is seeking to recover their legal costs, which they claim run upwards of £50 million from Harry and the co-claimants.
It is a staggering financial hit.
It is. But this multi-million-pound media defeat isn't the only thing keeping the prince awake at night. The ripple effects are tearing into his most desperate priority, his family's physical safety. And that's where the story takes a terrifying turn.
Yeah, if you're captivated by these twists of fame and the law, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss where our deep dives take us next. Because the transition from the courtroom to his personal life is where this stops being just a legal analysis and becomes a very human, very dangerous reality.
A highly anticipated UK family reunion is actually pulled out from under Harry's feet at the 11th hour because of a lost security appeal.
Right, because as he is fighting the press, he is simultaneously waging a massive war against the UK government over his police protection.
Let's lay out the timeline for this because it's crucial to understand. We have to rewind to 2020, that infamous moment when Harry and Meghan stepped back from their official roles as working members of the royal family.
And relocated to North America.
Right. And when they made that choice, a very specific Home Office committee known as REVAC stepped in.
Yes, so REVAC stands for the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. This is the body that calculates threat levels and allocates taxpayer-funded police protection. And when Harry stepped back, REVAC made a pivotal, highly controversial decision. They stripped him of his automatic, round-the-clock, taxpayer-funded police protection.
And they replaced it with what they called a bespoke system, which basically means he now has to give 30 days notice before traveling to Britain.
Right.
And every single trip is assessed on a case-by-case basis to determine what level of threat he faces during that specific visit and what protection he might get. But Harry didn't just accept this, he took the government to court.
He fought it fiercely. His legal team argued that the REVAC decision-making process was procedurally unfair. They argued he was being singled out and treated less favorably than other VIPs.
And they had some pretty scary evidence to back that up, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. To prove the necessity of his security, they presented evidence of severe active threats. This included an al-Qaeda document explicitly calling for his assassination.
That is terrifying.
It is a credible, terrifying threat. They also cited the highly publicized, dangerous paparazzi chase he and Meghan experienced in New York.
Right, I remember that.
His core argument was basically, my role may have changed, but my birthright hasn't, and the risks to my life are the exact same today as they were before 2020.
But the courts looked at how REVAC calculates these threats and disagreed with them. We have the judgment summary from the Court of Appeal from May 2025. Sir Geoffrey Voss, the Master of the Rolls, alongside two other Lord Justices, unanimously dismissed Harry's appeal.
Unanimously.
Yeah, and when you read the judgment, it's actually quite empathetic, but legally ruthless.
It is a masterclass in separating emotion from the law. So Jeffrey Voss openly acknowledged that Harry felt badly treated, but he ruled that a sense of grievance, no matter how profound, does not translate into a valid legal argument.
Basically saying, we get it, but the law is the law.
Exactly. He wrote that from the Duke's point of view, an unintended consequence of his decision to step back from royal duties was a lesser level of protection. But, and this is the hammer dropping, that unintended consequence does not give rise to a legal complaint.
So the court basically said, you opted out of the specific cohort of people who receive automatic state-funded protection. It is entirely logical for the government to change your security status as a result.
Exactly.
But here is the part that I always find confusing, and I want to get your take on this. Harry offered to pay for his own police protection. He basically said, keep the taxpayer money, I will write the check myself.
He did.
Why on earth would the British government turn down private funding to protect a high-profile target?
That is one of the most fascinating constitutional questions this case raised. And the government lawyers fought it aggressively, and they won.
What was their argument?
They successfully argued that British police officers who possess the authority of the state and the power to carry firearms in a country where that is incredibly rare cannot be rented out.
Wow, I see.
They are not private mercenaries or bodyguards for the wealthy. If you allow billionaires to purchase state police protection, you fundamentally compromise the integrity of law enforcement.
That makes a lot of sense.
The police answer to the law and to the public, not to a private client who's paying their salary.
That makes complete sense when you look at the systemic precedent it would set. But the real-world impact of this legal theory is playing out right now, and it is heartbreaking. Fast forward to summer 2026. The Invictus Games are scheduled to be held in Birmingham in July.
Right.
This was supposed to be a massive moment. Harry and Meghan were planning their first trip to Britain as a family in 4 years. Harry was reportedly incredibly excited for his kids, Archie, who is 7, and Lilibet, who is 5, to reunite with their grandfather, King Charles.
The logistics were all in motion, but then, operating under that bespoke system, the government declines his request for comprehensive police protection outside of royal residences for this specific trip.
They just said no.
They assessed the threat and decided state resources weren't justified for the entirety of his itinerary.
And the reaction is immediate. A source close to Harry tells the press he is absolutely distraught. At the 11th hour, he completely cancels the family's trip. He refuses to bring his wife and children to the UK.
And you have to remember, he has fresh ammunition for this fear.
Right, the well-child incident.
Yes. During a solo visit to the UK just prior, in September for the Well-Child Awards in London, a known female stalker managed to bypass security. She entered a secure zone at his hotel and had to be physically body-blocked by his private security team on 2 separate occasions.
So you see the impossible situation he is in. His private security, no matter how elite, does not have the legal jurisdiction to close down streets, access state intelligence networks, or carry certain weapons in the UK.
Exactly. Only Ari Vidic can provide that level of holistic, preventative security.
It feels like a tragic catch-22. He's fighting the press for his privacy, but without police protection, he's literally exposed to them the second he lands on British soil.
It really is.
Is there any legal loophole left for him here?
Legally, the road has essentially run out. The Court of Appeal decision was unanimous. The UK government has drawn a definitive hard line.
Wow.
They maintain that their protective security system is rigorous, proportionate, and based on objective intelligence. They will not bend the rules of state security for an individual who opted out of the institution, regardless of who his father is.
And speaking of his father, Harry is waging a two-front war, one against the media and one against the UK government. But there's a third front, the most personal one of all, and it involves the king himself. Stick around, because the fallout is truly unprecedented.
It gets intense.
Prince Harry publicly admits his father, King Charles, is refusing to speak to him over the security battle.
And the context here is vital, because the estrangement hasn't just been a Cold War. It's been highly publicized since 2020.
Right. Between the release of his memoir, Spare, and those explosive television interviews, the trust has just been eroded.
Absolutely. But time is now the most critical factor. King Charles is 76 years old and has been actively battling an undisclosed form of cancer. The window for a meaningful family reunion is actively closing.
Which makes what happened after his court defeat so shocking. Just hours after losing his security appeal, Harry sits down for a remarkably candid interview with the BBC. And he doesn't hold back. He looks at the camera and says plainly, he won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
That is not just an expression of sadness. It is a direct public accusation against the monarch.
It really is.
Harry claims that the ROV committee, the very committee that just denied him automatic security, actually includes 2 Buckingham Palace officials. This is the crucial detail.
Okay.
Harry firmly believes these palace representatives are actively voting to block his security in the UK.
So in his mind, it's not just a faceless government bureaucracy denying him. It's his father's own employees.
Exactly. And he makes a desperate plea during this broadcast. He says, I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. I don't know how much longer my father has.
That is so heavy.
What he is fundamentally doing is appealing directly to the king to intervene. He wants his father to tell his palace officials to step back, to let objective security experts do their jobs so that he can safely bring his children to see their grandfather.
Okay, I have to jump in here because I struggle to map out the strategy.
Yeah.
If Harry wants peace with his father so desperately, especially given the king's health, why continue this massive public legal assault that actively blames the palace?
It's a fair question.
It's like trying to put out a family fire with a legal flamethrower. You don't heal a rift by suing the government and calling out your dad's staff on the BBC.
Your flamethrower analogy perfectly captures the paradox of Prince Harry's current life. To understand why he is doing this, you have to completely shift your perspective and look at how he defines the threat. For Harry, state security is not a luxury. It is not a VIP perk. It is basic survival for his wife and his children. He looks at the tragic history of his mother's death. He looks at the documented al-Qaeda threats. He looks at the stalker penetrating his hotel in London, and he sees imminent lethal danger.
Right. He actually said in that interview, what I'm struggling to forgive is the decision that was made in 2020 that affects my every single day, and that is knowingly putting me and my family in harm's way.
Yes. And because he believes the king has the power to intervene and change that reality but won't, Harry feels fundamentally abandoned.
I see.
He doesn't view his lawsuits or his television interviews as attacks on his family. He views them as the only shield he has left, precisely because his family refuses to provide him with one.
So in his mind, he is fighting a corrupt system to protect the lives of his kids.
Exactly. But from Buckingham Palace's perspective, they see a former working royal repeatedly, publicly attacking the institution. It is 2 completely incompatible worldviews.
And the palace's reaction to all of this has been incredibly telling.
It has been absolute silence, followed by an icy resolve. There was no olive branch offered after the interview. Instead, Buckingham Palace released a very brief, very firm statement supporting the court's ruling.
For shutting it down.
They pointed out that the security issue has been meticulously examined by the independent courts with the exact same legal conclusion reached every single time.
They are essentially washing their hands of it, deferring entirely to the UK government and the legal system, and legally, they are insulated.
Yeah.
The monarch is constitutionally separate from the courts.
Which is exactly why the king cannot simply order the government to spend taxpayer money on his son. The separation of powers prevents it.
Right.
But to a son wanting his father's protection, constitutional boundaries offer very little comfort.
If you want to keep untangling the complicated real-life drama behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button right now.
So as we zoom out and connect the dots of everything we've unpacked in this deep dive, so what does this all actually mean for his future? Well, when you synthesize all of these sources, the court transcripts, the appeal rulings, the public statements, we are looking at a man who has experienced the wildest possible extremes of the justice system.
Definitely.
He successfully took down the Mirror Group and secured a monumental settlement from the Sun, proving to the world that some of his deep paranoia regarding the press was entirely justified by historical facts.
Yeah, he was right about a lot of it.
But he just lost his biggest, most expensive war against the Daily Mail, facing a ruinous £50 million bill. And the tragic irony is that in the process of fighting all these battles to secure his privacy, he definitively lost his appeal against the UK government.
Permanently stripping away the state shield he feels is absolutely required to safely bring his children to his homeland.
Exactly. It is a staggering sequence of events. You spend your life fighting to build a fortress, and the collateral damage from the wars you lose ends up costing you the very thing you were trying to protect in the first place.
It is a modern tragedy playing out across high courts and global headlines. He is desperately trying to carve out a safe, private space for his family, but the highly aggressive, highly public mechanisms he is using to achieve that are further alienating the very people he ultimately wants to reconcile with before time runs out.
It's just a heartbreaking situation all around.
It leaves you with a really unsettling thought experiment. If Harry's ultimate lifelong goal is to protect his family from the media intrusion that so tragically impacted his mother, does launching these highly publicized £50 million court battles actually invite more of the exact scrutiny and danger he is so desperately trying to escape?
That's a really good question.
Is the fight itself becoming the biggest threat to his peace? You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in to our deep dive on the sources, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.